All right, everybody, welcome to the 176th edition of the Holy Backboard podcast. I'm Dustin here in Rip City, and I got my man.
Sage chilling here. Damn, dude. Basketball's here and I'm loving it. We had a kind of a rough week with that last game, but we're here to talk about it.
I think it's been an
Injuries.
incredibly trying season already. 6 games in for Blazer fans everywhere. Right now, the Blazers are sitting at 3-3. They have had an incredibly difficult schedule. 4 of those 6 games have been away from the Rose City. Portland has not been able to protect home court. And in every single loss, they have blown a double-digit lead. And in the case of 2 games that happened this week against the San Antonio Spurs down in the Alamo City, and last night against the 76ers, the Blazers blew gigantic opportunities. And it's okay, though. I think in years past, we would be having this podcast, and there may be some urgency or some panic, maybe in my voice, maybe in your voice, Sage, of where are we going to go from this? Are the Blazers okay? This is a different team. This is a different franchise, and it's just parts of the ebbs and flows of an NBA season. It's not. I don't think the first 6 games are an indicament of where this team will end up. And I think
Mm.
that's important for our fans out there and our listeners to take a holistic approach with this team. And to be 100% honest, it may not even happen this year. I think we all kind of glossed over the fact, myself included, that Yusuf Nurkic is not going to return until 2020. We don't even know what time, and we don't even know what his learning curve is going to
Mm-hmm.
be. We said that, but I don't think we really processed what that means, because you're bringing in a completely new starting caliber center in Hassan Whiteside. Zach Collins was brought in. Yes, he had experience playing, but not
At
at
this
this
level.
role, at this
Mm-hmm.
level, playing these minutes against these starters. It's a completely new world for him. And then you're bringing in a bunch of new rotation players in Hazonia and Bazemore. Simons, who is ultra talented, is now getting ushered into that sixth man of the year
Third
position.
guard, third
The
guard
third guard,
rotation.
a lead guard, a lot of responsibility on his shoulders. And on top of that, we were just handed one of the most difficult 20-game slates that I
Mm.
can remember as a Blazer fan. And in years past, there would be some panic at a 3-3 start, and at how we're not able to really put our foot down on the opponents and keep the gas on the pedal. And it's different this year. And I say that because I truly believe in this team. And I don't want to make it seem like I didn't believe in teams past, but I think if we're being honest with ourselves, the 15-16 Blazers that were projected to win 23 games and went on to face the Warriors in the second round of the playoffs, that team got by off of scrap, off of
Mm.
playing with the utmost urgency, and they just outwilled their opponents. They
Mm.
played that entire year like Westbrook did after Durant left and averaged a triple double. They played with a gigantic chip on their shoulders, essentially saying, fuck you to the rest of the NBA, fuck you to the rest of the media. And that was their MO. That's what got them over the hump. But we really never added a lot of talent from 15-16 up until even the year we got swept against the Pelicans, which was 2 years ago. Last year, after the deadline, getting Enes Kanter, getting a Rodney Hood, that really infused this roster with legitimate NBA talent
Mm-hmm.
that could contend, and we saw how it paid off. They were able to dismiss OKC in 5. They went 7 against Denver, winning in the Mile High City, and then they went to the Western Conference Finals. This year's roster, it is incomplete, and that is due to injury, but it is so much better. And I've already seen the flashes from the individuals that I can tell this roster is it's championship caliber. And the best thing about it is it's not done. And it's not done, in my opinion, on a couple of levels. Obviously, you have the injuries to Nurkic and Zach Collins, but what Neil O'Shea has in front of him at the deadline, whether it's at the buyout market
Mm-hmm.
or it's trading a large expiring contract to fill that final void. And what I don't think Neil O'Shea will do is make a panic trade. Like this team is set up for the long haul. Yes, I know the NBA is wide open this year. There's no Durant. He went out east. He's also out for the year with his Achilles. There is no Golden State Warriors right now. Klay Thompson's out, Steph's out, Draymond's out, D'Angelo's out. They are obviously tanking. I know it feels like it's open for just this year, but the window, it's going to continue to be open. There are no super teams, and I expect that trend to continue. This roster is young, Sage.
Mm-hmm.
Dame's not 30. Dame's 29. CJ's 28. Rodney's 27. Zach's, I believe, going to turn 22 this year. Nurk's 25. I mean, then you've got Penny, who's 20. I mean, you've got all of these young pieces. Baze isn't even 30. I mean, Scal is looking like the player who we thought he was going to be coming out of the draft. There's a lot of young talent, and even our vets are pretty young. So even if this year, and I know it's tough because it's our 50th anniversary year, and a person like me, I'm incredibly nostalgic. Even if it isn't this year and we get bounced in the first round, it is okay. It is not the time to panic. This team is set up and for the long haul. And what I mean by that is once we get our team healthy, I truly believe they are the best team in the league. The way Dame's playing, the way we know CJ can contribute, Rodney Hood is the player that I expected him to be. I mean, the guy, I'll say he's better than Tobias Harris right now. And you look at what Philly is paying Tobias Harris. Like, give me Rodney Hood any damn day of the week. And then you've got young Zach, you've got young Nurk, you've got a trade asset in Hassan or Baze. Baze plays incredible defense. You've got Simons, you've even got Nasir Little riding
You
your
got
bench.
Gary Trent Jr., who's probably tradable.
And you've got Scal, and I've been incredibly impressed with Mario Hezonja. This is a roster.
Dude was double and triple threat last night, man.
I mean, I just really like this roster, and right now it's not in alignment with whatever for whatever reasons. But just give it some time. It may be a rough year, and we may not win as many games as we did last year. We may not go as far in the playoffs as we did last year. But we all knew, excuse me, heading into the season that we weren't going to get last year's version of Nurkic until the following season.
Yeah.
Fall of 2020. We're looking at a year from now is when our beast is going to be fully rejuvenated.
Speaking of our beast, did you see his suit on yesterday?
I saw it from the stands. I'm all about that.
Right? That shit looked dope. And since we were both at that game yesterday, did you buy that $50 vinyl of all 8 games? I was clutching my pearls at that price point, bro. That's just insane, man.
I would have paid anything for that, man. We're talking vinyl. We're talking about Bust a Bucket, Rip City, Rhapsody.
Wait,
can
did
I
you
get
cop?
a head? Hell yeah, I copped.
Oh my god.
Everyone, dude, those things were flying off the shelves. Like, that is a genius marketing idea. Like, I'm honestly scared at what they're going to come up with for every decade night because my wallet is going to be hurting. I already know they're going to give out, if you were at the game, either the opening night preseason game at the Coliseum or 70s night. If you're familiar with the early 90s Blazers memorabilia, Bank of America and the Blazers put together these illustrated kind of like lithographs. And there was the starting 5, and I have them hanging up in my Blazer room. But it looks like they're replicating those based upon the decade nights. And my goal is to get multiple sets, obviously frame it, find a place to put it. But I mean, the Blazers are doing a really fantastic job marketing this 50th anniversary season. If you go by the Rose Quarter Concourse, they've got every year on the polls with rosters, with facts, with original artwork. Just the aesthetic from everything is wonderful. And you look at the court, you look at the jerseys, like there's no better aesthetic in sports, in my opinion. And there's just something to be proud about. I mean, you look at no offense to CJ McCollum, but you look at the Cleveland Browns and they're working with brown and orange. Like, we actually get something nice to look at. And to me, that means a lot. You're rocking the gear. You want to look good.
Man, yeah, the price point on $50 vinyl was just like, nope, nope,
It's a
nope.
collector's item.
Yeah, but that $50 up front, bruh.
Yeah,
I mean, I gave you money to buy me a sweatshirt. That sweatshirt right now is gonna do me a little bit more than the vinyl record.
Regular sweatshirt, or collector's edition vinyl with. See, all of these songs like matter to me.
It meant something to you.
Yes,
I was not.
exactly.
But damn.
So I didn't get it. So I mean, I have listened to it. Don't get me wrong. I just finished it up before we recorded this podcast.
Hell yeah, bro.
But I didn't get it just to listen. I got it so they knew that I can listen to it. Like, thankfully, when I worked with the team, I worked with my buddy Justin, and he had all of the MP3s. And so I do have them on my phone. So I have a Blazers kind of like playlist that I can listen to. But to have them on vinyl,
it means something, and I get that.
It is cool. My only complaint is like there were a couple songs where I'm like, they definitely should have added that. But it brings back memories of me sitting in the car, getting ready to go meet, Jerome Kersey or Robert Pack or Clyde Drexler. And we would play those tapes. Like, I had those tapes. You'd go to G.I. Joe's and you'd buy the tapes. You'd maybe get your VHS to recap the season. Like,
man, you're showing your age on that last sentence. It shows your age.
34 and proud, Sage. Let's go. Like, there's feeling good, and I just think they're doing a really fantastic job. I mean, everything is tied together nicely. I mean, they even had the original pinwheel last night as our logo on the Jumbotron, and the font is the original 70s font. So I just think they're doing a magical job, and that's another reason why I wish we were having a better season. But again, it's game six. This team traditionally under Terry Stotts and Damian Lillard, they just don't hit their stride until February, and I think we could expect that again, because A, that's when our players are going to start to get healthy. B, they're going to get acclimated with one another. We infused a lot of new talent into this roster, and lastly, our schedule lets up a bit. I mean, those three factors combined, I think we're going to make a strong push. And is it going to be a strong push to get the 8th seed? Is it going to be a strong push to get home court advantage? I don't know. But as long as this team is healthy and they go into the playoffs, I don't give a shit if we're playing Kawhi or LeBron or Russ. I think we have a chance to ruin a lot of team seasons in the playoffs and upsets. And I know the media may have a field day with it because they all predicted it was going to happen, but you can't predict injuries. And frankly, it's Blazers over everything.
So before we break down the games of the last week, bro, I was sitting next to some like family friends of Matisse Thybulle during the game, and I was just like, damn, he is such a good defensive player. And they just were so hyped for every time he stepped on the court on those rotations. They were just so happy for him. And dude, he is a very good defensive player.
I mean, Dame torched that. I mean, I thought their defense was absolute trash last night. I mean, we put up 125 without
100 in the first 3 quarters. That's But I mean, so I couldn't be that mean. But did you deal with
I didn't want to give them too much credit because I thought the officiating was very.
Did you see Mario Hezonja get slapped on like 3 baseline cuts? Like you audibly, I audibly heard the skin on skin contact. I
mean, whether it was that or CJ catching the ball and not moving and calling a backcourt violation,
that was insane. Yeah,
I mean, on a lot of those turnovers in the 3rd and 4th. I mean, they were getting a little handsy, really physical. Like, our guys were falling on the floor. They weren't calling anything. Hood goes out of the game because Simmons hits a moving screen. I just thought the officials were pretty garbage last night.
Were there a lot of bandwagon-y ass fans where you were in the 300s?
No, there was a guy and his son, and he was quiet the whole game. Like, he's just obviously there.
No, I respect anybody that like sticks with their team, but there was a lot of front runners where I was at, and there was one dude in particular I was hoping to God we'd win so I could talk crap. Like, God damn, that dude was annoying. Just holding up the 3 signs, and I was like, man, did you know who played on your team during the tank era, or are you just a bandwagoning jerk? Because he was getting me annoyed, man, and annoyed Sage is a much bigger asshole than normal me, but goddamn, but that dude, first game of the year for me, and it was an exciting game. I know some shit happened that we didn't like, but let's go on to let's talk about the first game of this slate of games that the Blazers had this week.
I mean, I think the only takeaway from this game is that Damian Lillard is a bad motherfucker, and you are really never out of a game when he is on the floor. Like, but I was yelling at the coaching staff, not yelling, but I was just like kind of over it. I was like, we're down 9, just empty the bench, Terry. I'm over it. I can't believe we blew this 19-point lead. And then all of a sudden, Dame just goes like incredibly nuclear. And to be honest, I'm surprised we didn't win that game. Dame had some looks. Tolliver had a look at 3, and then the last one went in and out. I mean, that's just one where it just wasn't meant to be. But again, that's a game where I felt okay because San Antonio had to do whatever they could. I mean, Patty Mills was hitting shit. I mean,
Marco.
I mean, LA did nothing, and they still were able to get that win. But
what do you think of DeJounte Murray?
He looked back to his old self.
I mean,
he's looks never like going to be an all-star, but he's a really solid player.
He looks like he was. I know he's taking usage away from LaMarcus and DeMar DeRozan. Why am I saying he looks? I know he does. So there's a big difference between their production levels when he's out and when he's in. So he's out every back-to-back. The second game of a back-to-back, DeJounte's out. And that's when DeMar and LaMarcus actually play better. And White actually gets the starting minutes. But
Derek White is the one I'm much more impressed with. Like, he was the one that came back and had a couple of stop the bleeding buckets, which when you're down 19 with 5 minutes to go, it takes perfection on Portland's part to make that comeback. Derek White had a couple of big buckets that were just enough to run out the clock. And so of their guards, we're talking Mills, Forbes, Murray, and White. I think White is by far the best of the bunch.
It sucks that he has a guy that's more established in front of him. But maybe in the future, when they don't have DeMar DeRozan taking mid-range jumpers, they'll just run a two small point guard lineups with those guys. Well,
and we also didn't have Zach Collins for that game too,
and Hassan was healthy the full game.
Yeah,
and I think Tolliver was there in the last play, but I think we ran Hassan Whiteside in the finishing 5 until like the last few possessions.
The finishing 5 was really just Dame and 4 other people in Blazer white jerseys. It was.
I mean, it was really good to see Hassan get that extended rotation because it's hard to get those extra blocks and rebounds and points when you sit out that last rotation of the game. And since Zach was injured, Hassan got some of that that last rotation.
Yeah, I didn't feel like Hassan had the impact that he should have had against a Spurs team that starts LaMarcus Aldridge and Trey Lyles.
Anthony Tolliver outplayed Trey Lyles. I don't want to hear any contradiction to that fact.
Anthony Tolliver, as getting the start, played well. Again, he needs to make his threes. He missed another wide open one in the Philly game because that's what we brought him in to do. But I did like his defensive help. He was a very intelligent player, made a lot of hockey assists.
Yes, he is killing it with a hockey assist this week. It's nice to have a guy that can move the ball. I mean, the last 10 years of Blazers basketball, we've dealt with the LaMarcus Aldridge black hole on offense. So it's nice to just see someone willingly do a skip pass or kick it to the guy in the corner. Man, like, I was completely and utterly satisfied with how he played that game.
And as is the case from last week when we talked about the Dallas game, this was a classic case against the Spurs of what we're likely to see from this Trailblazer team, I think probably for the foreseeable future until they get much more acclimated with one another. You have the Blazers outscoring the Spurs by 14 in the first quarter, going up by as much as 19, and then they put 40 on them, basically 39 points in that fourth quarter. But it was that second and third quarter stretch, including getting outscored 37-20 in the third quarter, where you really saw just how green this Blazer team is, and they don't quite know each other in terms of their tendencies and what to do. And you could tell they were all trying to win the game themselves. In that third quarter in particular,
it was hero ball centric, right?
It was hero ball. It was a lot of one pass and shoot. It was a lot of rushed threes, a lot of contested jumpers. It just wasn't that free flowing ball movement that we saw in that first quarter. And it frankly wasn't Dame taking over and going into the paint and getting better opportunities in the fourth quarter. Mm. And we're going to see that until this team gets comfortable with one another. There's going to be stretches where they look like the best team in the West. And there's going to be stretches where you're like, I don't know if this team's going to make the playoffs. Mm. And so, frankly, that was my takeaway from the Spurs game. The Spurs are 4-1 in the Western Conference. To be absolutely honest, if we played them even without home court advantage, we're sweeping their asses in the postseason. That team of all the teams out west just does not scare me at all. I'm sorry, DeMar DeRozan, whatever.
You know, it's crazy when like the Blazers media talked about the missed jumper because they assume it's going in every time it's a clutch situation, and for them to not have it go in is kind of a shocker. And that's how good Damian Lillard is in the clutch, that we made a big deal about a missed game-winning three. Also, I want to shout out Anthony Tolliver on that screen to generate that much space for Damian Lillard on that.
I mean, that was a beautiful play out of timeout. You got 2.2 or 1.2 seconds left, and just for a second, I thought we were going to get some revenge from the Memorial Day Miracle, Game 2, 99, when Sean Elliott hit a shot in a similar spot with his feet inbounds, his heels out of bounds, but he was above it, and he just hit that miracle three. Thought we were going to get some.
If we had the challenge in 19...
No, he was in bounds. No, he was in all of the replays.
Oh, wait, I would remember this now, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it defied physics, but he was in bounds, and I just thought for a second we were going to get some karma, but it wasn't meant to be. Thankfully, we get another chance at San Antonio later on this month, and you best believe that the Blazers are going to have a little chip on their shoulder when they go in there as well. But moving on to OKC. So Portland, unfortunately, dropped that contest against the Spurs 113-110. They go into OKC. They're finishing up the fourth game of a road trip. It was ugly. It was painful to watch at times. But the Blazers found a way to win 102-99 in what I thought was a must-win game, just given the talent disparity between the teams. And frankly, they just needed to find a way to get a win. Like going 3-1 in this road trip was sensational. And I don't even think at full strength, you look at this road trip preseason, you're like, okay, Dallas always gives us problems in Big D. San Antonio's been tough to beat at home lately. Sacramento, it's their home opener. Blazer teams historically have struggled in Sacramento. And then you got OKC, which kind of is a trap game because it's the last game on a road trip, and they're obviously not as talented as they were before. 3-1. I mean, you take that any day of the week. It was a fantastic road trip.
My first thought when I was watching that game was, I know from previous games that Chris Paul loves to make Damian Lillard mad. And that's the thing throughout their careers. He tries harder to piss off Damian Lillard. Remember the Clippers game where he did a last-second stole the ball and did a last-second...
I think that was when he was still with Houston.
Okay, it was Houston. But
yes, so absolutely.
There's a long history of those two players pissing each other off, and I think Chris Paul absolutely loves to do it. And for the first half, I was just like, holy shit, is Chris Paul finally washed? Is he bad now? Is he trash? And I kept thinking about it and watching it as he was just so uber passive. Like he let Shea Gilders get his, he let Dennis Schroeder get his. I was like, okay, is it really time that Chris Paul is now washed after all these years? Nerlens Noel's getting rebound. This was a weird game, and like we pulled it out. It was dirty as hell. It was gross. It was a gross game, but we got the win. But I kept waiting for that explosion of like usage from both of these guys who obviously do not like each other. They don't fuck with each other. And then in that fourth quarter, oh boy, I saw it, man. It was Dame Lillard's versus Chris Paul, back just like 5 years ago, where they were just usage monsters, whether it was assists or them taking it to the hole themselves. They were getting busy that fourth quarter, and thank God Damian Lillard was just a little bit better. But I think this might be Shea Gilgeous-Alexander's team, and even if Chris Paul stays, like that dude's locked into his role of being super duper aggressive at driving to the hole. I remember looking at the stats, and he's like 70%. He drives more than anybody else in the league, and he don't pass when he drives. It's like a 94% just taking him taking the rock and trying to score. Man, that dude don't pass. So I think he's in his role, and I think Chris Paul is realizing that it might be Shea Gilgeous' team.
I mean, I think if they're smart, they don't let a 35-year-old Chris Paul
run shit.
Yeah, exactly. And really, the only reason this game was close was because of the discrepancy at the foul line. OKC was able to get to the line 37 times compared to Portland's 24, and it really did take one of those classic Damian spurts. I think he hit 2 or 3 threes, and OKC fans were like, okay, here we go again. I've seen this movie before. I know how it ends. And it was a night where, frankly, no one shot the ball well outside of Kent Bazemore and Anthony Simons. But all that matters is a win. We're not going to remember this game at the end of the season as what it was. We're going to remember there was a W at the end of the score. You had more points than the Thunder. Don't care how it looks. It counts. It all counts the same. What were your thoughts on Danilo Gallinari? I know with the
he
injury,
scored a lot, but he
injury
didn't.
to Zach Collins, people are saying, "Oh, we got to go out and get Danilo." But I really wasn't.
He scored a lot, but didn't have it. He didn't have that many like peripheral stats, if I remember right.
Did he score a lot though? 15 points.
Oh,
no.
How many shots did he take?
15.
Yeah, okay. I thought it was 20 on 15, but thank you for correcting me on that. I think he's. I don't think he's the type of guy we need for this team. One last thing about this game. I grew up a Hornet fan, so I remember this from Chris Paul saying, the first 2 quarters, I get my bigs involved so they feel motivated to run for me. The second and third, I get the wings involved. And the fourth quarter, I take over. I think Damian's kind of on that strat, except you switch the wings and the posts, and he takes over in the fourth. So it's something I noticed. Dude's a third and fourth quarter killer.
And I think it was after the OKC game, he was interviewed, and
that was some gems right there.
He talked about playing with pace and making sure he had some kick left to him when it counted the most. And if you watched the Raptors when they made their run to the championship, Kawhi Leonard had one of the best kicks that I have seen from an NBA player ever. I mean, he would literally just let the game come to him, pick his spots, and then when it was time to go, it was just like he was shot out of a cannon, and he was hitting threes, he was hitting jumpers, he was just completely energized. And if Dame, with what we're seeing through the first 6 games, to me, that's really going to translate and help this team down the stretch, because you are getting guys like Hazonia and Hood and even Hassan Whiteside. You're building their confidence up early, and you're letting them get involved, all while you're saving your energy, and hopefully the score is within striking distance. And then you've got the best player on the court more times than not with more stamina left, more gas left in the tank than everyone else.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, there's going to be games like the closing game against OKC in the playoffs where nobody's hitting and he has to do it all by himself, but at least he's going to have more stamina this season and in the postseason to do that when shit ain't going right for the 12 other players on the court.
So moving on to last night's heartbreaker, Philadelphia escapes 129-128. Sage, there was a lot to take away from this game. Obviously, Joel Embiid doesn't play because of the suspension. Portland had Hassan Whiteside as a late scratch, so they were down Gasol, Nurkic, Whiteside, and Zach Collins.
So four centers and nobody else.
So outside of Scalabissier, there was really no player taller than 6'9" on the court. Terry Stotts went with Anthony Tolliver as the starter and Mario Hezonja as the 4. And the reason why I say this game, I think this game was more valuable than the result. First, I want to talk about Anthony Simons. And the Blazers let a lead dwindle, and they found themselves down a point. Final possession. Damian Lillard gets the ball. As soon as he crosses half court, there is a defender coming at him, a secondary defender. Every time we've seen this, we have seen this movie before in the regular season and in particular the playoffs. Instead of having guys like Mo Harkless and Al-Farouq Aminu on the perimeter, you have CJ McCollum. I believe Anthony Tolliver was out there, and Anthony Simons. This play right here was worth the price of admission alone. If you only watched one play, make sure it was this one, because defenses now are going to have to pick their poison. Do I let Dame go up against my best defender one-on-one and maybe something like Chandler Parsons or Paul George happens to him? Or do I run him off the ball and make him be a facilitator, which he was, and kick it out to a spot-up shooter? Anthony caught that ball, quickly let it fly, and it was net. You just knew.
He greened that jumper. He absolutely
knew as soon as Dame found him, I was like, this is going to go in. Like, I had the utmost confidence in him, and that's going to give defensive coaches a lot to think about come April. This is a huge development, and I don't think it's being talked about enough because we're so accustomed to just being let down in those situations. But we have legitimate options. I mean, Hassan wasn't kidding when he said we got shooters. Mm-hmm. Like, this could really be a game changer for the Blazers down the stretch, and that's not even factoring in Anthony Simons is now clutch. I mean, he did it for us for 48 minutes against the Sacramento Kings in the regular season finale. He's now taking game-winning shots. Sage, this is great for his development and his performance and his confidence as we go throughout the regular season and into the postseason. Like, this kid almost seems like he's cut from the same cloth as Dame and CJ.
So I want to talk about a possession before that where Anthony was dribbling up the court, and then the Sixers sent help from Damian Lillard to try and trap Anthony. And I've just felt like that is such respect from the opposing team that they're going to send probably one of the best assassins, man, off them to try and trap a guard that's just so on fire that game. Like, Anthony's starting to get respect from opposing teams and opposing coaches. And dude is living up to that and exceeding our expectations right now. And it's great to have that third legitimate ball handler on the court. Like, we spent $16 million per to find that third ball handler in Evan Turner, and it wasn't as successful as just letting this rookie scale contract guy handle the ball and hit a very clutch corner three in the process. I had a lot of opinions about this game that I think differ from what I've been seeing on Twitter. And I just want to ask you, what was your opinion on Scalabissier in that game specifically against the Philadelphia 76ers?
I thought Scal played fantastic.
Okay.
I
want to hear your reason why.
I felt like whenever he was in the game, we were getting buckets at ease. I mean, he had so many plays where he was finishing around the rim. He needs to get stronger. We all know that. He only got 4 rebounds. But when we are without so many players, you need other players to step up and provide what they're good at. I
Hmm.
felt like he did what he is best at, and that's being efficient. 7 of 9, 15 points. He even had a couple of assists. I just felt like the ball was moving. Obviously, he has some height. And frankly, I think putting every instance in where we didn't get a rebound on Scal is unfair
It's completely and totally unfair.
because we were just undersized the whole night. Like, to be honest, the fact that we even had a 20-point lead,
Is
given who we
amazing.
were going up against, it was amazing.
Regardless of JoJo being out or in, the fact that we were in a position to win by such a large margin at one point in the game is huge. Yeah, leads disappear a lot faster now that the pace is a lot faster. But we were put in a very good position in that game from a lot of players playing some very good ball. Like Mario Hezonja killed it. Rodney Hood obviously killed it. So for me, there was a set in the offense where Scalabissier was in the middle and he was trying to make the pass to a cutter. And I know the statistics and the stat keepers didn't say it was his turnovers, but it was his turnovers in my mind. So he was he's top of the key like a Nurk spot and tried to hit the cutter. It didn't work anytime because the windows were so tight. And it worries me that he just tried to force it every time. And I know I'm nitpicking, but there was a lot of times where he was put in a position where he could either pass it or just keep it, go run to a guard so they can finish the motion. So it worried me about like his, I don't want to say basketball IQ, but like in that specific circumstances, either he wasn't put in a good position to succeed because he should be in the dunker spot. He should not be passing it.
Exactly. That was going to be my counterpoint is I think that's asking too much of him.
It's asking too much.
Because he's not a starting center for a reason. He is a backup big, a very good backup big who's a scorer. I mean, I guess watching him in college and throughout his career, passing is never something I thought, yeah, but Scal, he's like Nurk. Like, I would say 100%. Don't put him in that position.
So I don't know if it's on him or Terry because this was one game and it's a pretty incredible set of circumstances that he generated so many minutes and playing time. But when he had the ball in his hands and he wasn't next to the paint, I was very nervous about us getting turnovers. That being said, and defensively he got babied, but I can take that. Like that's fine just because of the height discrepancy. But there also, was some.
Al Horford babies a lot of people.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That dude is a Hall of Famer.
And Kyle O'Quinn too babies a lot of people. But I don't know, like the passing made me very nervous. I mean, shit, I saw Kent Bazemore do the same type of mistake with the passing when he dished it he tried to do a corner pass through the crowd of people and it got intercepted. So I should not blame Scal for all of the mistakes. But it made me a little bit worried, and in my mind, it lowered the ceiling a little bit on Scalabissier. But if we're talking,
really, so that's fascinating because I've honestly, the way I've felt about Scal these past games, especially with Zach out, I have felt so much more comfortable in the fact that we could potentially move Whiteside because we have Scal as our backup center. Like.
Oh, I'd be frightened.
No, if you have Nurk and Scal,
okay,
hell yeah, let's go.
Okay,
yeah, I said backup. I didn't say start.
Okay, with if we have Nurk, then I'm less scared. But passing ain't his motif, and I get that, and I'm judging on one game, but
I think
a lot of people judge on one game. Again, bro, it's about safety, and when we had if I'm being critical about Scalabissier, we got a lot of critical motherfuckers in this community. But
all I'm saying is he is a bench player, and what have we always said on this podcast? Bench players are specialists. He specializes in scoring the basketball. I think
so. Maybe it's on Terry from putting him in a passer position, and I get that. Shit was rough. I also want to talk about Kent Bazemore's decision making and free throw shooting. Those two missed free throws, that was a bummer.
Yeah.
And that last possession, man. When I saw it, I was like, oh shit! Somebody did the Robin Lopez back when they should have hedged. At the time, I did not know who it was.
Oh no! What possession are you talking about?
Oh, last possession when your doppelganger.
No, fuck that guy. He is not worthy of being in my presence. No, that dude was flopping all over the court.
Oh,
fuck
shit.
That guy.
Yeah, but that last possession of the game where it looked like it was Tolliver's rotation, I was like, oh fuck, somebody's out of position so badly. And then I really want to know what everybody's responsibilities were for that given play, because I saw on Twitter Anthony Tolliver said that was his role, was to sag back on that corner three. So that play, because I've seen it a lot, it's like, damn, if it was me, I would have had him switch. That last play was that sucked, but they generated a very nice shot for a 3-point shooter.
And sometimes you win games you shouldn't, and you lose games you should.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I mean, shit. Like, the fact that we were upset by such a big margin with 4 centers being hurt, I'm counting Zach as a center.
Yeah.
So it makes me wonder, how long do you think Hassan's out?
Hassan and Rodney are probable. That report came out right before we podcasted. So
okay. Rodney Hood injury did not it scared me at the time.
It scared the hell out of me, and I'll tell you why. So we're watching the game from our vantage point, and I think it was the third quarter, I tell Olga, I'm like, oh shit, Rodney tweaked his ankle, and you see him going up and down the court, like trying to walk it off. I was like, okay, he got through that one. And then he takes a huge fall on his tailbone, where I heard that shit from the opposite end of the arena.
I did too.
In the 300 level. And then he's still playing, and he's coming back, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, like, is this guy gonna like be okay? And like, sure enough, third time's the unfortunate charm. Ben Simmons sticks out his shoulder, bumps knees with Rodney, and he has to go back. And I'm seeing Nurk hold him, and like, as a Blazer fan, knees give me anxiety. You just always think
Blazer PTSD.
Exactly. But apparently both he and Hassan are probable for Monday night's game against the Warriors. So we can have a little sigh of relief there. But, just going back kind of to that last Sixers play, we did leave 2.2 seconds left on the clock. That is an enormous amount of time in today's NBA. And all I hope for is that they learn from that, because frankly, they should have never gotten that type of an attempt. You should never be able to run a screener and get a short corner three. I mean, you look back when Dame hit that shot against Houston. Houston should have never allowed Dame that open of a look. I mean, it shouldn't happen. Somebody either missed their rotation or Terry mismanaged the situation. All I ask is that they learn from it and it doesn't happen again, because we're going to find ourselves in scenarios where we're up by 1 or 2 with minimal time on the clock, and we're going to have to make a play. But, and I'm not trying to sound like too much of an optimist, the fact of the matter is we're 3-3 and we're 2 plays away from probably being 5-1.
Yeah.
Dame shot goes down in San Antonio. You probably win that game in overtime with how fucking hot he was. And they miss a shot at the buzzer. You win the game. So we're not that far away. And you go back to opening night against Denver, we were up 12. It's just, we're not getting blown out. We're not even close to being 100%. We have a lot of new players, and I'm really liking the progression I'm seeing. One thing that I tweeted out, I don't think people are giving Rodney Hood enough love, or that story just hasn't been told.
Yeah, the narrative isn't.
His stats this year have been incredible. You're looking at over 14 points a game on 53% shooting from the field, 52 from downtown, and he's grabbing you 4 boards and shooting about 77% from the line, a steal and a block per game. He is that bona fide small forward, shooting guard, third option that we have been waiting. Like in that game, every time he took a three, just
his confidence was outrageously
you
high
could
that game.
feel his confidence in just how he was releasing the ball, and just he had a rhythm, and he's been magnificent this year, especially early on. He's taken a couple threes that I'm like, damn, you got to have a lot of confidence to take those.
Yeah, humongous cojones.
I am loving Rodney Hood. I mean,
absolutely, and he's a bargain financially, like you mentioned.
Like we have been on that Hood bandwagon since we acquired him. Like we knew.
I cursed him at Duke with my love for him. I have the absolute worst luck with falling in love with players in March Madness, and I do. Oh, bro, shit, no, Denzel Valentine as well. If we're gonna use updated, but yeah, like I cursed him with my love in 2014,
the 2010s.
Yeah. So I want to mention why I wasn't nervous about Rodney Hood, and you said it. Yusuf Nurkic was carrying him, not a medical professional. So it makes me think. Okay, it's not as serious as it looked if it's just Nurkic right there with him and no person that's a professional at health shit is with him. And it was like, okay, it's not as bad as it looked. He might be out the next game, but damn, it was a rough. It looked rough, but once it was just Nurk, I was like, okay, I can calm down a little bit. I've
been.
Oh, Hood's been great, man, and
I need to get that number 5 jersey because I think he's going to be a staple on this team.
Yeah, he's getting another contract from us
for years. Sure. And he loves it here. Like the team throwing him that surprise birthday party, brought him to tears. Like he just knows he's part of a family, and he's easily a top 5 player in terms of fandom for me. And the ability for him to post up smaller guards. Now he's got that 3-ball cooking. I think he's going to become an even better defender. But to have that option, that outlet, he had that big 3 against OKC as well to really ice that game. I just feel so confident in him right now. And I think he's only getting better. I really believe he's that long-term answer at the small forward, and you already know, okay, Dame, long-term answer, CJ, same, Hood, Nurk, hopefully Collins, but then you've also got trade chips. That's why I am so high on this roster, because they're only going to get better. And you look at Rodney Hood, he hasn't even been with the team a full calendar year.
Yeah, this is his first offseason with the team. The one thing, when you posted that on the Holy Backboard Twitter, and it's at Holy Backboard, right? The Twitter? Hell yeah. Okay, I got it right. I'm really bad at remembering Twitter handles.
You're bad at remembering your own handles.
I'm absolute trash at remembering stuff. But the one thing I saw that I really loved when you posted it was that he was getting defensive statistics, because with him getting steals and blocks, it means that if the shot isn't falling that particular day, he can still contribute to the team because of his defense. And when he was in college, when I fell in love with him, I realized that he was scoring dependent for his production. And if you can defend when your shot's not falling, it means you can be on the floor in clutch situations, and we're not worried about you. If he wasn't getting those defensive stats and more rebounds, you'd look at his stats and be like, oh shit, that's Eric Gordon, that's Derek Anderson. But the fact that he's contributing in these other stats means that we could trust him in those clutch moments. Obviously, you could trust him in those clutch moments because of what he did in the playoffs, but this year, he's adding more stuff to his game, and I think that's really huge for Hood when he comes back from this injury.
Quick update. I said Kent Bazemore wasn't 30. He is actually 30 years old. But I
digress. Is he still younger than you?
Yeah, fuck off. I also want to talk about Mario Hezonja. To me...
Refs hate him. Let's make it a Twitter handle.
To me, he is our new Al-Farouq Aminu, and I mean that in the best way possible. And what we saw was he's a tank. Mm-hmm. He's got the height that Aminu has, but he's got some mass to him where he was able to defend on the perimeter against Ben Simmons pretty well.
Yeah, he made Ben Simmons really annoyed, especially when Ben Simmons likes to post up wings and guards for those easy running hooks and post shots.
I've just noticed the effort too on defense from him,
Mhm.
sliding his feet, staying in front of his man. I mean, this was really the type of performance that when we kind of started to see him in preseason, you're like, okay, this is what it could materialize into. But you're talking 11 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists,
2 from 3 from the 3-point line, right?
2 for 4. But I
Two.
think he hit his first two. Yeah, if
He
he
hit the
can,
first 2 threes that he took,
if
and
he
that was
can
huge for
become
spacing.
just even a consistent 3-point shooter, like I love how he's able to finish in traffic. He's able to handle the ball. So I think that's what separates him from Aminu is
Mhm.
he's able to handle the ball without you really being scared for your life.
Absolutely. There were times, and obviously he's going to have to work on his 3-point percentage and being respected in the league. But there were times when Ben Simmons, who was defending him, just said, "All right, screw it. I'm just going to be in the middle of the paint and make you have to pass it around and work." So he needs to be more consistent with the three, and if that happens, he could be on the floor in clutch situations. Right now, with how I saw Ben Simmons just disrespecting the three, he can't really be there in the final 5 minutes when we're fully healthy.
All right, Sage, we recapped the week that was. Let's take a quick commercial break from our sponsors. We have got a couple fan questions. We got to preview the week's slate of games, 4 of them in total, and we'll get right back to it after this word from our sponsor. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Holy Backboard podcast. Dustin and Sage here with you on this Sunday evening. Sage, got a couple of fan questions,
Hell yeah.
and they are all from @trendsofficial_. A lot of good questions as well. He says, Blake Griffin, Kevin Love, LaMarcus Aldridge, Draymond Green. Who would be the best option to trade for if we are to include Hassan Whiteside in that package when Nurkic is healthy before the trade deadline? Of those
So
four, who would you target? Who is the best fit?
so is it the same trade? Like,
No, I'm reading the question as you're going to have to give up more for a guy like Blake Griffin and Draymond Green than you would a Kevin Love.
Kevin Love, he's playing really fucking well for Cleveland right now. Like, he's rebounding at such a unsustainable rate right now.
And
He's
it
putting
reminds me so much of his Minnesota days that I'm
yeah.
just like,
I think that how much would a Blake Griffin trade hurt us? Like, what? Give me an example of what the trade would be. Like Hassan plus what?
I think so. Each one of these players.
I'm unwilling to trade Anthony Simons. By the way.
Yes, I completely agree. I think in each one of these trades, when you're looking at a player, they all come with their pros.
There's opportunity
cons.
cost. There's opportunity cost for each and every one of those players. So I want to know what the opportunity cost is.
And so when you specifically mention Kevin Love or Blake Griffin, to me, injury history plays a huge role in what I'm willing to give. Contract plays a huge role in what I'm willing to give. I think any trade is going to start with Hassan Whiteside. He just makes the most amount of money. I think we just need Bazemore's wing defense off the bench more if you have a healthy Nurkic. It just makes a lot of sense.
It makes a lot more sense, yeah.
I think any trade is going to include Nasir Little because he's still a first-round prospect.
Okay.
And I think you're probably going to have to give up
Gary Trent and some picks for Blake.
I don't think you need to give up Gary. I mean, the salary's already been hit. If you can keep Trent, I would prefer to. It's by no means it's not a deal breaker, but I don't think.
What about first-round picks for Blake?
I mean, I think here's what I think Detroit would start with. Okay, we're going to want Hassan, Zach, Nasir, and a first-round pick.
Would Detroit prefer Kent Bazemore though, because they already have Andre Drummond?
To be honest, I don't know what Detroit wants. I think Detroit probably would just be making that trade because they were
they want to get rid of the
playoff potential, the playoff picture, and yeah, they just want to shed salary. So it doesn't really matter if it's Hassan or Bazemore. And I think obviously the highest priced player on that list is a Draymond Green. I don't think I think you probably see that package maybe plus a pick or two.
And they don't want to help a rival. I mean, I
I
know.
just don't think Draymond Green's really going to be on the market.
Yeah,
I think we're going to see the Golden State Warriors have a 1997 Spurs year
yep, that's what I'm
where
thinking.
injuries force them to tank. They're going to play it smart. I honestly don't think we see Steph Curry back this year. They may trade D'Angelo Russell to find a
Did you
better
see how
long-term
scary
fit.
that potential injury was?
I didn't see the injury happen. I
I thought
saw
he
it
was going to
on
break his
Twitter.
arm. I thought he was going to break his arm, bro.
So, he's out at minimum 3 to 4 months. And, obviously Clay's hurt. Draymond's already dinged up. And to me, if Draymond is that piece, I think
Yeah, I
if you're
think he is the
looking
missing
for
piece.
a Buck Williams missing piece, it is Draymond Green. He fits this system to a T.
Mm-hmm.
He would be
He's my number
to
one.
Portland what Kevin Garnett was to the Celtics in 2008. Yeah.
So is he the number one for both of us?
I mean, I think
out of the four,
it's Draymond here, and the rest are
okay. Yeah. I would say I don't know how healthy Blake Griffin is either. He hasn't played yet. He is probable for this week, but again, I don't want to trade. I don't want the opportunity cost to be so much for an injured Blake Griffin year.
I completely agree, and it would take, to me, Zach Collins is.
And yeah, you take away Zach Collins' future production. Because if you have Blake Griffin and he's healthy, he's taking 36 minutes.
And I think if you're trading Zach Collins, it is for Draymond Green. I mean, ultimately, you would love to have Draymond mentor Zach, but you have to give to get.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
I probably don't trade Zach for the other three on that. Draymond's the only one that moves the needle for me.
Yeah. I'd be willing to do that as well.
Look at LaMarcus Aldridge. The Spurs right now, they're 4-1 in the Western Conference.
They're not going to trade him because they have the hope and fantasies of being deep into the playoffs.
So unless that team derails, he is going to be on that roster. So you remove him. I don't know if it's going to be one of these four players. I do think Portland is going to eventually make a move. But again, we're a ways from that. To me, if I had to rank them, it would be Draymond, Griffin. Oh boy, Kevin Love if you keep Zach Collins, and then LaMarcus. I think Love.
That's my list as well. I don't think
if Love can stay healthy, his shooting and passing,
and rebounding.
Frankly, yeah. I mean, with Nurkic, I mean that's a really tough.
That's a great big man combo. Kevin Love and Nurkic.
And even Kevin Love and Zach Collins. So if you're able to keep Zach Collins and just really maybe throw in a couple picks. I like that. I am not on board.
If we could turn injuries off like it was NBA 2K, how much higher would Blake Griffin be on your list? Like, I know he's second, but it's a big jump. How much would it be?
If you could guarantee me that Blake Griffin would not get hurt.
If I guarantee you 74 games for the next 4 years, how much higher is he on that list?
He might be number one just because I know the cost to acquire him would be cheaper than acquiring Draymond Green. Like injuries, I'll pay his contract. Like if you could guarantee injuries, we're off. But again, you can't.
I mean that's why I said if this was NBA 2K, not reality. Do you think it's more like a Robert Covington level player we get back?
I think you got to find if you're going to move a $24 million expiring contract, it needs to quote Neil, has to move the needle. I think we have enough Robert Covington type of players, and Covington specifically doesn't. I know he was the flavor of the offseason for Blazer fans, but no, give me Rodney Hood and Kent Bazemore any day of the week. But
you didn't know Robert Covington plays the 4 now and has a really high rebounding rate because of that? Inflated rebounding rate because of that? One might notice. I
do now.
I watch a lot of basketball to know this.
Speaking of Bazemore, we have another question from Trends Official. Says, can Bazemore be the sixth man that Hood was for us last year? He seems like he can on some nights, and others I'm not really sure about him.
He's more high variance with the offense, but he does bring it defensively. It's just, he kind of has that Aminu streak to him because he tries to do high skill offensive moves, and sometimes he just doesn't have the skill for it. I think that absolutely, if you're counting on him to be the sixth man of this team, he can do that defensively, and offense, it's just like the cherry on top. But I think he could be our sixth man.
I like Bays, and the inconsistencies I think come from a new role, a new city, a new franchise, new teammates. And when you look at him play, when he does, and we're like we talked about with Scal, when he does the things that
He does
he's
well.
good at and he stays in his box, he's a very strong player. Catch and shoot threes, pull up dribble, mid-range jump shots, aggressive defense, playing those passing lanes. What gets Kent in trouble is when he puts the ball on the floor and tries to make a play. He is not a
Hmm.
playmaker.
Hmm.
If he can just get into that role where I'm just going to be a spot up shooter, just like what they want me to do, just like Batum, just like Aminu, just like Harkless,
Wes Matthews.
he can thrive. And I
S-
think
s-
he's trying to do a little bit too much, but I love the energy and heart and hustle he plays with on a nightly basis. And I would expect the variance to start to even out as he gets, accustomed to everything. And that's really the theme of this podcast is just let's get accustomed with one another. But to answer your question, I'm not too concerned. I really like Bays, and I hope we keep him here long term.
So that is a dribble pass shoot. Would you keep him long term?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's not going
At
to
what
get.
price?
I mean, I don't see how if Rodney Hood came back for the taxpayer mid level and we have Bays' bird rights. I mean, he just had a baby. He loves it. He loves it out here. He knows he's not getting $17 million per season again. And Jody Allen has proven that as long as we have a winner, she's willing to pay the luxury tax. I don't know. What do you Bazemore $8-9 million a year?
I would do that in a second.
I mean, I would essentially if Bazemore got offered the same contract that the Orlando Magic offered Al-Farouq Aminu,
Done deal.
done deal.
Signed, sealed, and delivered. It's on. I mean, I think there is a price point and everyone has a price, and I think if he's less than like 13% of the cap, I'm all about it.
And he's still shooting 38% from three so far this year, which is magnificent.
And he brings a lot defensively and
he's
aggressiveness.
Good locker guy, good culture guy. Like Bays is a good dude, and I know I've heard people throw out, well, Portland could have up to $20 million in cap space. Well, that's if you let every single free agent walk.
And how many dope, elite level
None,
A+ talent
none.
go to Portland?
Well, there's not even that on the market. Like they've all signed.
I mean, the free agency in
so then
2010, 2020 sucks.
Exactly. So if you have to pay up, you just do it because, frankly, it's not our money. Two, all we want is a banner to hang in that arena. Like
how mad would you if we got one of those needle? No, I was about to say needle threader. Raising of the ceiling type of players. Would you be mad if Bays was involved in that trade?
No. It just depends on what the package is. If you say, "Oh, we gave up Bays, Collins, and Simons," I'm like, Jesus Christ,
that's a lot. We better.
Is Giannis coming back?
Yeah, we get an AD.
No, fuck AD. Fuck that guy.
Oh man, you would love you would change your tune on Anthony Davis if he came here.
He's not my type of player. He reminds me so much of LaMarcus in terms of
his dude.
I don't think he's down for the cause.
No,
maybe LaMarcus is for the Spurs now, but like
AD has to get kicked to the nuts a few more times, but yeah, like I definitely think Bazemore is more likely to be on the team next year than Hassan, for instance. I definitely could see a rotation of Rodney and Kent being a legitimate 48-minute thing. Like I could see Kent Bazemore being the direct backup and playing a few minutes with each other, but I would love to see Bays retire as a Blazer, just because as long as the opportunity cost isn't too high.
All right, Sage, let's go into this week's slate of games. I went 1-2 last week. You went 2-1. Overall, I am a miserable 2-4. You're at 4-2, so you got the early 2-game lead, but we got 4 games to predict. At Golden State tomorrow night, at the Clippers, nationally televised on TNT on Thursday. Finally get to come home. We got Brooklyn on Friday, November 8th, and then we got Atlanta on Sunday on November 10th. Let's dive into these games fast and furiously. Golden State Warriors, not your father's Warriors anymore, Sage. They look abysmal. 1-5 currently, and just a litany of injuries. You've got obviously Steph Curry's out with the hand. Draymond Green, Steve Kerr said, and I quote, "will miss a couple of games," and he has something wrong with his left index finger.
Yeah, apparently he can't handle the ball with that hand.
Obviously, Klay Thompson is out. Kevon Looney is out for a while. And you also have D'Angelo Russell, who is day to day. And as we talked about earlier, it looks like Portland is going to get some reinforcements. Rodney Hood, thank Sean's, is
probable.
Okay. Probable. Hassan Whiteside, after he took that his left knee, ran
I
into
thought it was
Chris
going to be a
Paul's
lot
hip.
worse. I got some Blazers PTSD off that one.
He is probable. Sage, what do the Blazers have to do to get this win, and what's your X factor?
I mean, I think the Blazers just out talent. I mean, just think of how many postseasons, the Warriors have ended our season. I don't think this is the team they take lightly. I think the real question is who takes the shots for Golden State? Where does that production come from? Because you know it's going to be the Warriors play at one of the highest pace in the NBA because of how ass their team is. You want to run up the possession totals just to give yourself a chance at winning. So who's going to be that main person we have to worry about? I know Jordan Poole is getting a lot of run. I know Alex Burks. There's a point guard that I forget right now. Let me look it up. Kai
Bowman.
Kai Bowman. I lost a lot of money because I did not put Kai Bowman on my daily fantasy rosters.
They've got the rookie Eric Paschall.
He looks good. He legitimately looks good.
Glenn Robinson the third. I mean,
medium dog. You can't give him big dog nickname.
No, you can't.
So and then they got Willie Cauley-Stein, who we both actually like. It's just gonna be this is the worst team. We gotta just smack the absolute shit out of them. I think that we're gonna see Anthony run that second unit for a long time in that game. The person I would watch out for is Alex Burks because he always carves out a nice little usage rate off the bench. And then Eric Paschall actually does look good in his run with the worst team I've ever seen.
Yeah, for me, my X factor is going to be the Blazers themselves. Like I mean that in a sense of this feels like
a Philly trap game.
It feels like a trap in the sense that, okay, we're heading back out on the road. We've got a lot of days before we go on national television against the Clippers. We're coming off an emotional defeat. And it's like the Thunder because we had such a history with them, but then you go into the arena and none of there's so many different faces. It's not Russ. It's not Paul. I mean, Steven Adams wasn't even there.
Yeah, Nerlens Noel.
And then you're going to go play Golden State, a team that has been a thorn in your side for the past 4 or 5 seasons, and none of the familiar faces are going to be there as well. Can Portland mentally get themselves up to play this game against a team that is more like the Charlotte Hornets than the Golden State Warriors? Mm-hmm. Can they play a cleaner game than they did against the Oklahoma City Thunder? Yes, you want to get a victory, but I think you want to feel good about this.
You want to curb stomp them.
I think Portland does need to have a convincing victory here early in the season and watch the turnovers. I think if it's a high turnover game, it's a tendency that Portland is not locked in and mentally they're not ready to go. And I think 3-point percentage is going to play a big factor here, especially with Portland going without Zach Collins for the foreseeable future. Thankfully, Hassan likely will be back, but the Blazers are shooting it as a team 40% from downtown, second best in the NBA. So if they can continue over this week stretch of keeping it dialed in from distance, I really like the Blazers' chances. So I think they are their own X factor. Like they are the only ones in this game that can beat themselves. If they can overcome that and take Golden State seriously, and I really hope they do because we are a 500 basketball team at the moment. That's what our record says we are. This is one of the most earlier must-win games that I can remember. I think things could start to unravel quite a bit if you don't pick up this victory against the Warriors. But I do have the Blazers winning. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be close, early on,
And then
but I think second half we pull away. So I
yeah,
got the Blazers winning.
I got that one. So we're going against the Clippers next, right?
We will be playing the Clippers Thursday night on TNT in Los Angeles. Uh, Obviously, they are one of the best teams in the league talent-wise. They still will not have Paul George, but they are 4-2 on this young season.
Did they play a game before this?
Um,
or
yes,
after?
they have a home and home.
Okay.
So they play the Milwaukee Bucks on Wednesday, and then they play us on Thursday. So one of those games, Kawhi will not play.
And I think there's a non-zero chance that Lou Williams joins them because he's an older player. He's played a lot of minutes. He is second on the team with minutes played. Like it's a non-zero chance that Lou Williams also sits out this game.
Yeah, so they will either rest him Wednesday against the Bucks or Thursday against the Blazers.
Is Wednesday ESPN? It has to be an ESPN game, right? You'd assume, just because it's like Kawhi and Giannis going against each other.
Let's look real quick. It certainly is.
Or the Clippers team's going to say F you to. Is it the Blazers or is it the...
I would predict, and this is what I'll base my prediction off of, I think Kawhi plays against the Milwaukee Bucks and rests against us. With all of our injuries, it's probably a better bet to go full strength against the reigning
MVP
and Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks, who were the only team to win 60 games last year, than against the Portland Trailblazers.
Do you think that Lou would sit out as well? Because he's played every game. Okay.
He's played every game so far this season.
There is going to be a game where he sits out.
Probably. I mean, I don't know. You're asking me questions that I just have no idea to.
And I'm looking at stats right now, and you're not. I'm looking at the Clippers stats right now, and I don't assume you are.
I think the Blazers get this done.
Honestly, if what we are talking through happens, yes, I think the Blazers win this game. Because it doesn't make sense for the Clippers to go full bore against a team with 3 injuries, when you got the Milwaukee Bucks at that. Each game matters, and especially against the Eastern Conference, you want to get those wins. I mean, if we're assuming Kawhi doesn't play, I think we get the win. If Kawhi says, we're getting this, I'm going to play this game and screw the nationally televised games against Giannis Antetokounmpo, I think we lose. I think Kawhi playing is a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely, especially with how banged up we are. But I think in this game, we're going to see a lot of Rodney Hood. And I think he's going to go to work, especially against those smaller backcourt.
Yeah, Lou Williams and Landry Shamet.
Pat Bev. Dame always plays Bev well.
He gets hyped for the Pat Bevs.
This is a nationally televised game. I think we can see big Dame time. So I like the Blazers in this one. My X factor to watch on the Clippers is Montrezl Harrell. He always seems to get them
he
fired
gets biz
up.
Against us. Yeah.
I mean, he is a high energy guy. Hassan's going to need to play. He's going to need to box him out because, Tolliver and Scal really aren't known for their rebounding prowess. Maybe it's Mario who draws that assignment, but we're going to have to keep him off of the boards. But so we both have Blazers getting a dub.
So are you dribble pass shoot? Is Hassan Whiteside playing more than 26 minutes in this game?
Pass. He hasn't played more than 26 minutes the entire season.
Damn it. I want that shit to change one day. So I'm shooting it. Because even if Kawhi sits, they still have some pretty good.
They're a very
bigs.
good team.
No, I mean they have some great bigs in Montrezl Harrell. I mean you gotta defend on Zubac because he could kill you. JaMychal Green's a damn good rotation big. Pat,
Pat he sucks.
So I mean that even if Kawhi's out, they have to come with the realness against this team because they can still kill you. I mean, their Landry Shamet could have his ceiling game and hit 8 threes. There's a lot of good players on this team, but if what we've talked about with Kawhi sitting this game, more than likely, I think we win.
All right, moving on to Brooklyn, a team that has, I think, grossly underperformed so far this year, just sitting at 2-4, have a lot of, I think, wonderful moments in terms of coming back from 14 to beat the Houston Rockets, and also not so wonderful moments losing to the Memphis Grizzlies, needing a last second heave from Kyrie to beat the lowly Knicks. To me, this looks like Kyrie and the other four.
With this team, it's different than in other years. So last year I talked about how awful they are at defending opposing bigs. So this could be and this is still true because DeAndre Jordan has a narrative of being a good defender. In reality, is not.
No,
And then
DeAndre Jordan low key shouldn't be in the NBA.
So he gets rebounds at a high clip. That's why. And Jarrett Allen is awful at defending him. I mean, like it's such a big discrepancy for opposing bigs to just absolutely eat upon the Brooklyn Nets. Like I remember from last year, it was like a 5 extra rebounds per game for opposing centers. That shit hasn't changed even though DeAndre Jordan's there. But additionally, defensively, they are awful at stopping 3-pointers. Like bottom 5 defending threes. So I could see us generating a lot of 3-pointers because we got shooters.
I mean, you look at the Brooklyn Nets, and it's an interesting schedule that they have. They've only played 2 road games, losing to Memphis and Detroit, and they play the Pelicans tomorrow night on Monday. But they have this 3-day layoff. They don't play until Friday in Portland, which kicks off a 5-game road trip. I think that plays in our favor that they've been sitting around Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then they have to wait till Friday night to play. I think Portland being on that second night of a back-to-back actually helps their chances of winning this game. Dame has said he likes playing back-to-backs. He'd rather just kind of get them out of the way than having to wait a day and play. And if he has a good game Thursday, I expect that to translate over into Friday. He always tends to play Kyrie Irving really well.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, Portland needs to defend to that 3-point arc. I mean, you've got shooters in Karis LeVert, Joe Harris. Even Taurean Prince has been hitting threes for them.
Yeah, he's looking really good.
And then Spencer Dinwiddie's a nice big guard that they have coming off of their bench. I think this is going to be a game where, again, Dame or CJ is going to have to just go off.
Yeah, I can see it too. And yeah, I think we have to be very, very careful of how we defend these shooters because Joe Harris plays a shitload of minutes. And if we leave him or Dinwiddie...
Absolutely. You cannot leave Joe Harris. You cannot leave Karis LeVert. I think you want Kyrie putting up 25-plus points.
Yeah, you want him to just
shots.
Ignore his... So you just defend the other 4 players on the floor.
Let him dribble, let him go, and one mixtape tour, whatever he wants to do. Let him score 40. I just keep everyone else quiet. My X factor will be the bench. I think you look at guys like Baze, Mario, even Scal, Penny, obviously. I like our bench much more than theirs. If we have a significant advantage on that end, especially playing at home, the Blazers are looking for their first home victory against an NBA team this year, including preseason. So it's time to give the fans something to cheer about at the RG.
I think that Spencer Dinwiddie Penny matchup is going to be the that's going to be the game right there because that's a tough one. And this is in Brooklyn?
Oh, Portland.
Portland? Okay. I would give, if it was in Brooklyn, I would say Brooklyn, but I think the X factor is Spencer Dinwiddie versus Penny. I'm going to go Penny this one. So I say the Blazers get this dub.
And it's really hard thinking of X factors and what to watch for because we are 6 games into the season.
So I mean, like I mentioned a bunch of stats. Yeah, I mentioned these stats, and there's some things that I absolutely can positively correlate, like being ass at defending centers. The fact that they can't defend the 3-point line is 6 games proven. Like it ain't the same thing as like 90 games of Jarrett Allen being shitty at defending opposing bigs.
So here's where it gets interesting. Portland wraps up the week against the Atlanta Hawks, and Trae Young is out.
Is he out for this game?
According to Shams Charania of The Atlantic, he is expected to miss a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm. And then John Collins also injured his ankle against Miami. And so are we assuming he plays?
He's not listed in their injury report.
Okay,
They have Alan Crabb right now, who is not expected to return until mid to late November. Chandler Parsons is day to day, and so is Evans.
They have so many.
God, they have so many former Blazer ties.
They have so many 2016 and oopsie doozies.
Oh, that team is just destined to kind of fall hard this year.
So with Atlanta,
first of all, the complete game plan changes without Trae Young.
Oh, absolutely.
He is a dynamo. Running the pick and roll, the limitless range. He looks absolutely like the future of the NBA. He and Luka, that amazing picks. Him not being in this game, I think, negatively impacts John Collins. I think it negatively impacts his entire team. Because
I would argue that John Collins actually does better just because of the usage rate.
But I'm not talking about usage in terms of his statistics. When I watched Trae Young go up against our defense last year, he made John Collins better. Mm-hmm. He was getting him alley-oops, he was getting him easier looks around the paint because everyone had to focus on Trae. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Collins because I think he's a fantastic player, but I don't know if he's Anthony Davis where you just give him the ball and say, okay, go out and get us 35 points.
So they've been putting a Cam Reddish at point. He's starting at point, and I think his minutes limit is 35 minutes per game minutes limit. So we're dealing with a Cam Reddish point guard. But you can't say that he is the only ball handler because they got DeAndre Bembry. And have you seen him play yet?
I got 95 on my back like I'm DeAndre Bembry.
Dude is a fantastic combo guard. Legitimately, he would be a really cool six-man for most teams in the NBA. Probably not ours. But he is the engine that keeps it running. So where Cam Reddish and DeAndre Hunter's minutes are at 35 now, Bembry is the most productive guard-ish player. Kevin Huerter's on a minutes limit. He said in a recent article that his knee feels weird. If I remember the quote right, his knee feels weird. He's on a 20-minute limit at this recording on November 3rd. So it's a lot of the new draft picks. Jabari Parker also is getting 24 minutes a game. So when he's in, we got to attack whoever he's guarding. So I see Mario Hezonja having a huge game against the Jabari Parker's trash ass defense. They have a lot of wings, but they ain't ready for this big time. That injury to Trae Young is just so huge for the slow development process of Cam Reddish and DeAndre Hunter.
You're absolutely right. Looking at that roster, to me, this has to be a game where Dame and CJ just need to win their matchups. Mm-hmm. Whether that's scoring the basketball or driving and dishing to Hassan, because they have no other big man other than Alex Len, who's a
foul monster first and foremost. So their center rotation is Alex Len, Bruno Fernando, and Damian Jones.
Yeah. So big.
And Damian Jones is losing to Bruno Fernando, who's a rookie.
So my X factor is Hassan Whiteside. If we get Hassan like we got in Sacramento on opening night against Denver, when he's getting either 22 points or 16 and 19, maybe we can get the all
Hassan Whiteside's gonna get some good ass games this week.
If we can get that all elusive lob connection working, even some drive and dish, I think this game is predicated on Dame and CJ winning their matchup. Not necessarily looking to score, but breaking down the defense, finding the other shooters.
Forcing them to react.
Yes, or finding Hassan down low. I like the Blazers. I got them winning. I know 4-0 week with everything that's gone on feels a little weird, but that's just kind of how I feel. I think they're gonna go 4-0, and next week when we record this podcast, we could be spouting out a completely different tune. You're looking at a team that could be 7-3 over the first 10 games, and you're looking back like, hell yeah, I take that every day of the week. You take that when you have a fully healthy roster.
I think we can both say if the team decides to play those guys, it'd be a 3-1 week. Because I also have a 4-0 week, with the caveat being Kawhi Leonard is out that game.
And I think it's important that Portland takes advantage of this because, looking ahead to the schedule, the following week you have to go to Sacramento again and you get the defending champion Raptors on a back-to-back at home. But then you head out for that 6-game road trip. You really want to give yourself a margin of error so that if you do go 2-4 or 3-3, it's not the end of the world. So winning games against a really depleted Golden State team, against frankly a not good Brooklyn team and a shorthanded Atlanta team, and if you're able to just steal the game against the Clippers game is icing on the cake. Mm-hmm. If you're able to get that, that's fantastic. But 3-1, just keep putting together, win 2 out of 3, win 3 out of 4, and all of a sudden you're looking at a 50-win season. It doesn't have to be these massive, 13, 14 game win streaks. But Sage, we've had a long ass podcast. Let's wrap this shit up.
I love that you say we're just gonna smash through all these games, and then I happen to take a long, detailed view of each team. I'm a dick. All right, so you can hear us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, all the feeder apps we're available in every podcast format. We got to shout out the people at Dash Radio for putting us on Tuesdays 2 to 3 on Dash Radio, Nothing But Net Radio, and we are available on Blazers Uprising, where you can see the full YouTube video of this podcast. And we'll definitely be posting a lot of clips once these games come around, because I think there's been a lot of good information being said. So thank you so much for listening. You're a real one if you have gotten this far, and peace out and hope for a 4-0 week.